So I'm just going to introduce Jamie. Jamie, works for the Tamarisk Coalition, but she is an integral part of the Verde Watershed Restoration Coalition, and especially she serves as our co-chair for our fundraising subcommittee and serves on our steering committee as well.
Thank you, Anna. And this is Anna, who is the mastermind behind the Verde Watershed Restoration Coalition on the Verde River. She's the program coordinator. We don't have anything to advance, but what you can do is give Kara like this, and she'll go ahead. Okay. And so Anna is the program coordinator and program manager of Friends of Verde River Greenway and the Verde Watershed Restoration Coalition, VWORK. Okay, so VWORK, the partnership, public-private partnership, has several years under its belt of restoration in the Verde River corridor. How many people are familiar with the Verde River in central Arizona? Oh yeah, lots of folks. Hey, Oswald's in the back. Hola. So every year it's become a tradition that the Verde Partnership hosts an annual stakeholders meeting. And that's a combination of things. It's an appreciation event for the landowners, the funders, and the stakeholders, and the community members. It's also a chance to give a sort of an update of what's been accomplished during the year and plans for the year ahead. And it's an opportunity to celebrate some of what's been accomplished over the past year. So this year, for the first time ever, at the stakeholders meeting, we spent some time talking about the true costs of restoration. And we wanted to quickly cover that today because we found that it was really helpful for some of the community members and the landowners to understand that there's so much more than what they see when they see the crews out on the ground doing the restoration work. So, we ran through, We ran through the cost of staff training and support, how much time goes into fundraising and searching for grants and applying for grants, project planning, outreach to every landowner, and the signing of an agreement with them, which Anna will talk more about, the initial site assessment and mapping. If there is critical habitat within the project area, there's a lot of time and money that goes into compliance, into permitting, the costs of permitting, and then survey work for, in this case, southwestern woolly flycatcher, yellow-billed cuckoo, western yellow-billed cuckoo, and there are some other species as well on the Verde that are recently listed, two different species of garter snake. Then crews are recruited simultaneously. We try to recruit local. There are veterans employed by the Verde Partnership. There's a veterans crew, and then also Arizona Conservation Corps. And then once that's accomplished, again, there's monitoring and there's maintenance over time and there's remapping and there's a whole process, an annual process, as well as reporting on each of those grants, large and small. So there's this continuum of work that's involved. And I think our theme with the landowners was if something's worth doing, it's worth doing well. And so all of these steps are a part of the process.
Go ahead. Yes. So this is just an example. We took a 40-acre site and just broke down the cost. And really, again, this was to show landowners the true cost of what we're spending on a piece of property. So this 40-acre site is a pretty high-density and highly infested site. So these are the costs that, when we put people on the ground, we're going to go out and map and inventory and do a pre-treatment site assessment, and that costs about $900. We're going to have field crews go out and do their work. This cost is for a conservation corps. It's about $25,000. Again, the cost of herbicide, it's about $1,000. And then, fortunately, our bird surveys, our southwest willow flycatcher surveys, and this year we'll start doing yellow-billed cuckoo surveys, which just got listed. those surveys have been done as an in-kind contribution from some of our partners from the Fish and Wildlife Service, the Forest Service, and also Salt River Project. But if we didn't have those partners to step in with their permits that they have already had, it would cost between $12,000 and $32,000 to survey this site for compliance. And then also having a crew go in the following year. On private land, we're going in every year for the first 3 years to do retreatment. And then on public land, we're going in every other year. But again, that costs about $300,000. So this project, this 40-acre site, costs between $41,000 and $61,000. And we want to convey that to our landowners so they really appreciate what we're doing, which they do, but they also realize that the importance of them doing the maintenance on the project. So we're communicating that with them throughout the whole process. When we approach a landowner or they approach us, we go out and do a walkthrough with them on their property. They agree to sign a habitat improvement agreement, which details exactly what they want us to do on their property. And we're communicating with them at that point of the costs and their involvement in the project as well. We go out and do an initial assessment of the site, a pre-treatment assessment, and we also do inventory and mapping. And they get that report. They get a map of their property that shows what we found on them, and that also shows the cost of that as well. And then after the initial treatment is completed, they also get a breakdown of all of the costs associated with that project on their property. And this is an example of one of those work reports that we send with a letter thanking them for their participation in the program that details all of this, the work that we did and the cost associated with it. And you can see at the bottom the in-kind hours. So this family, the Smiths, we changed their last name, they put in 100 hours of in-kind contributions instead of our crews spending the time to reduce the biomass on their property by chipping. They decided we'll burn it ourselves. And so we record their hours and we actually deduct that from the cost.
Okay, so in the case of the Smiths, they were doing some burning, or another example of a landowner contribution might mean equipment, maybe just doing some ocular survey work or monitoring. If they're out walking their property, they might be doing hand pulling post-treatment. But this was really key at the stakeholders meeting, I think, to talk about the concept of match of in-kind, because it's a way of bringing the community members and the landowners into the process. We said, how many of you, have gone out and walked your property post-treatment? And a lot of them had. They said, well, what did you notice? Did you notice some regrowth? Did you do anything about it? Every one of those hours that you spent out there on the ground has X value. So we really, I think it was an eye-opener for some of the folks who were attending the meeting, that their own time and their own land could count towards match, which is so important toward leveraging grants to fund this work. So we talked about match, in-kind contribution. We passed around a form, which unfortunately I don't think we put in this presentation. But there are lots of examples. You can contact VWork or Tamara's Coalition for an example of a form in which landowners could track their in-kind, their hours. As well, if your partnership regularly meets for a board meeting or a steering committee meeting, everybody's mileage and their time at the meeting most often can count as match as well. So you've got to be capturing all of that.
And we collect those forms monthly from all of our partners. it all goes into our tracking partner, our watergrass database, which tracks all of our, we're not a members organization, but it tracks all of our donations, and it tracks all of this volunteer time from our volunteer group, and all these in-kind contributions from our agency partners and from our landowners. So the values of this watergrass database. There is an upfront cost that's not necessary. It's about $2,500 to start it up, but after that, the cost is about $400 a year. But the value that we're getting out of this watergrass database is huge, and it's far exceeds the amount that it costs. So it not only it manages all of our volunteers, donors, and members. We don't have members, but it tracks them by household. So at Jamie's house, there's 3 of them, and they both Jamie and her husband have donated. So it will track their donations separately, but also send them a thank you letter. So we're not sending 5 letters out to one.
That was my accident. My husband and I agreed that the amount we would spend, and we both went and did it, not knowing the other.
Yeah. So it tracks our contributions, all of our volunteer hours. It will then generate reports so we can know who volunteered for us during the year. We can send them out a email or a letter that's generated through this database, through the software, that for like our volunteer appreciation day. And it'll also print out a report at the end of the year showing how much they donated and volunteered for our organization. If we were to start charging a fee for our services, currently all of the work that we're doing on private land is done for free. But if we were to start charging, we could also report that in the system, and it would be linked to that landowner. Also, for our fundraising campaigns, we can put in our annual goal and our campaign goals and track that. The software uses a Salesforce platform, which is a huge platform, but it's been narrowed down specifically for watershed partnerships or watershed groups, like some of you are in. And it also prints out real-time reports, so that when I go to report for a grant, I can just go into the database and report that as well. Some other things that it does are it really it is seamless with our financial tracking systems. So we can sync our QuickBooks to our watergrass software, which is really nice. And we can also send out mass emails. So our newsletter, which some of you get, the Otter, goes out through our watergrass database as well.
Okay, so we wrapped up this slide at the stakeholders meeting, but what's interesting about the lasting value of the work of the partnership, there are social and economic and environmental benefits. Thank you. But recently I had a phone call with the directors of Oak Creek Watershed Council, Friends of Agua Fria, Prescott Creeks, and I spent some time on the phone with these folks, and I said, what are your lessons learned in terms of fundraising? It's really interesting because this was in preparation for a funding work day down on the Gila Watershed Partnership, but there were some similarities in these separate, distinct conversations. And one thing that really came to the forefront with all 3 of these groups was the importance, making sure that your local, your county or counties and towns and city managers are really clear on the lasting value of what your partnership is doing, the lasting value of that healthy river system, of the job creation, whatever those are. You want to make sure that your county and your city and town leaders are aware of those, and then possibly you can start with some annual funding with those folks. So did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, just that, these things that are listed here are things that come out of that cost. And in our communities, they've been pretty big accomplishments.
So we started pretty late, so there might not be a certain time for questions. Okay.
Questions?
I was wondering, when did you switch to watergrass, and what were you using before? Were you just doing everything by hand?
We're pretty new. We're in our third year, and so before that, we were using an Excel spreadsheet. So going from that to this software was the limitations of things. Yeah, and the learning curve, Jamie was saying, the watergraphs, the folks that put it out, they have huge support services too. So taking that data from our Excel spreadsheet, which was basically a landowner, had all our landowners in, when they signed their contract, when we did the work, et cetera, that was linked. They worked with us to bring that into the database. And there was a little bit of a learning curve getting used to the program, but both our outreach coordinator and our administrator are, in a couple months they had it down. Thank you. One more? Okay.
Hello. How did you arrive at $22.50 per acre? Did you consider
For the herbicide cost?
or for the mapping and inventory? And did you consider, was it just a plain land, or was it
No, that cost is
hilly valleys? Was there a mountain vegetation that you had to do?
No, it's in the Riparian corridor, or that's our project zone. So it's pretty flat area, and that cost is the high cost associated with that because it was a high density site. So it's going to take more time to do that site. So there's kind of a tiered system with our cost for mapping a really low density site versus the high density site. And we got those costs basically off of our 2 years of doing the work. And all of our mapping is done by volunteers, AmeriCorps. Anybody else? Thank you.